Yeah. Yes.
Hmm? Good afternoon. If you, was bad at lining up the chairs. So if you want to shift real quick, or if you want to, that would be cool. We'll be all lined up. I'll give you a moment. Looks good already. Good afternoon. I'm Brandon D. Johnson, and this is the American Poetry Museum. And today we have a poetry reading with Shaheen Qureshi and Leeya Mehta. Usually we have a band, a nice little combo. Today they're not working out, so that's okay. Poetry is music, is it not?
It is.
All right. So very quickly, Shaheen Qureshi is a Filipino-Pakistani-American writer, editor, and educator. Her interdisciplinary work seeks to excavate post-colonial identity through research of family and personal archives. Her writing has appeared in Pinsapo Press, Changes Review, and is forthcoming from Iwa Journal. And she is the recipient of fellowships from studios at Mass, MoCA, and Caldera Arts. She holds an MFA from the Milton Avery Graduate School of the Arts at Bard College, and is the co-curator of the reading series Here I Am Again. From Potations, I have a recipe. The phenomenological punch. A baby planet has been spotted by astronauts. Leftovers of its formation still in its birthplace. The baby planet is the size of a pomander with a durian musk, and its grit is raw. Maybe it will realize it is a rebel or just a palm-shaped amulet I had all along, and I ignored it. Where's the spill? This is an unwanted, unresolved space. Once the resonance happens, maybe the world can come back in. Recipe: 1 astrolabe, 1 new moon, 1 spherical slice of transgression, a question of the woman in the space of pleasures. Infuse the drink with bagged mountain air. Swirl it around in your mouth. Ask it to talk dirty talk to you. Wait for an approach to take shape. Leeya Mehta is the author of the chapbook, The Towers of Silence. She is associate editor at large at Plume Poetry. Her poems have appeared in the Beloit Poetry Journal, Fulcrum, District Lit, Poetry London, and the Atlanta Review. Mehta grew up in Mumbai, and after travels through the Arctic borderlands and Japan, she lives in Washington, D.C. Her newest collection is A Story of the World Before the Fence. Is that your book?
That is.
For the soft cover, how much is it?
Only $15.
No. Just tell the price.
Just the price?
Just the price.
Only the price?
Just the price.
$15.
Only $15. And for the hardback?
Discounted.
Mm-hmm.
$20.
$20? Only $20. Okay, and you heard that was a discount, so you're getting savings because of this reading. All right. Now I'm going to read a stanza from a longer piece called The Years by Leeya. Stanza number 9, or part number 9. The origin of love is like the origin of music. One cannot know the music of the heart until one is loved. One cannot know what the body needs without listening to the body. You have listened well. My body knows you. And now, please listen to the poets.
Thank you. Hi everyone, can you hear me okay? Okay, great. Okay, I'm gonna read some little short poems from this issue. It's the travel agency issue. It came out early last year, 2020, from Pensapo Journal. Okay. Achem. Interior spiraling. A sprinkle on the top of a drink or a cup of pudding dusted. Mirroristic. Monopoly. Nathaniel's route to run. Worth enough to buy you a mansion in a hamlet and a servant along with it. Worth enough to buy you Manhattan. Dove. Columbus, in search of cinnamon, finds instead the Americas. The color of my grandmother Aisha's hands, her skin curled like bark. Before she died, I rubbed her fingers, swollen from lancet pricks. I have never made my own garam masala. She would grind the spices with a brick on a slab of stone. Chatbari. Between what is past and what is present is a knotty circle, opaque beads. I eat around them, weaving a string of dots until the rice is gone. Trini. I am enticed by the way you gaze at futures. Will you bond me out? Bancha. The oldest clove tree is named Afo. All other clove trees on Ternate had been extirpated. Flowers dumped in the Molucca Sea, perfumed oil spill. Afo, now a bare trunk of nails and hooks.
No, I think we'll just yeah, it should be fine. Hi, everyone. Afghanistan's been in the news a lot, and it's so interesting that we seem to repeat so many of the cycles that the first poem I'm going to read sort of echoes. I am from Mumbai, but my ancestry is Parsi or Zoroastrian. We're refugees that originally came from what was Persia to India to escape religious persecution. And the first poem is an imagined ancestor's journey from Persia to India in the 900s. Refugees, circa 917 AD. It will be well if we leave this country and run away towards Ind for fear of life and religion's sake, said the head priest. Then a ship was made, ready for the sea. Instantly they hoisted sail, placed the women and children in the vessel, and rowed hard. From the Kissa of Sinjan, the poem. The boat is too small for so many, and only the twin babies sleep, drunk on milk and swaddled tight, rocking against their mother Armide as the men row hard into the familiar waters of the Gulf of Hormuz for the last time. The starlight on the receding mountains dimming fast until what is left of this new moon night is the abiding light from their holy fire, fed carefully by their priest with sticks of sandalwood pulled from deep in his white robes, as he looks east into the black Arabian Sea. All the joy and blood that had come before already turning to myth, he counts how many generations it takes to go from conqueror to refugee. Gold bangles ring out as the twin babies are given to their grandmother, then great-grandmother, and passed back to their mother, 17, back erect, molten copper hair, fawn brown eyes flecked with green, hiding tiger, quick to anger, as quick to forgive the everyday abuses girls seem not to know they carry. The father, Sorab, 25, son of Bezan, named after his grandfather Sorab, the names alternating and reaching back into the oldest Persian towns, winding up rivers into orchards where they planned this winter voyage, had 4 boats in sight and 6 behind him. But now they are hidden by night as they row with speed, the wind still, the vessel's arrows through the air. So when tired eyes stir with the new dawn and the babies, Bezan and Avan, tug with little hands to drink, steam from their breath against her chest, their mother lifts her head as the men cry, Hindustan. She does not expect rose petal beach like silk shivering before her. She pulls herself to her knees to look at this land at the water's edge that shifts and stirs as if it is made of wings, disturbed by the coming of her people, only to gasp as flocks of long-limbed flamingos rise up into the sky and scatter, revealing a sanctuary of white beach. Sleep. Island of Diu, coastal India, circa 917 AD. You know that feeling when you are caught at the edge of sleep and consciousness, too tired to stay awake even if the world is not safe enough to rest in. Armide drifts into that place, the clouds find lines in the evening sky. She is falling into new earth. Her children are milk-white rocks at either side, smoothed into oblivion. She reaches for the voices that talk close by, but they do not remain long enough to comprehend before the words flap and are out of reach. Their priest returns and his message makes her strain to wake, but she cannot. She keeps dropping his words like heavy stones on the floor. She does comprehend, though, that they may stay. Welcome. They are told her people may carry the past with them, every building, every word, even God, but they may not give it away to their new country. They can remember, but they may not feed their old stories to their new neighbors, as if they are the true God's food. They say, though there are many gods here, respect ours, but do not give us yours. They are told, keep your stories whole, but separate. They are told, keep your fire lit, cut wood for it in our forests, grow your own trees on our land, but do not take our children into your temples. They are given jungle that stretches as far as the eye can see to a river. They plant their seeds from their old homes, pomegranate, rose, sandalwood. The local builders sit with them and plan homes. The sea is rich with rawas and mackerel. Dolphins call in the evening light. They teach the locals how to build better boats and plant orchards and flowers like their Persian gardens. They flatter their new countrymen and add Krishna to their makeshift altars as they dig wells and chop wood. The Portuguese arrive with Christ. They take him in, worship the old gods, indulge the new. Their fire burns quietly, does not feast, it does not spread. They keep their promise. For centuries their numbers are small, then diminish. They have been too modest. Is it the price of real civilization? Thank you.
Okay, one more from this little issue. I've been, for the last few years, getting my MFA and working on a manuscript that is really kind of obsessed with recipes and spices and drinks and all the kind of colonial remnants that exist in these like spaces of drinking and pleasure. And one figure in my research is this classic cocktail writer named Charles Baker. And so this poem is a little bit about him and my mom. It's called Junket. Baker visited nearly every Asian city. Mother's first city is Juneau. Ceylon, Singapore, Indochina, the Dutch East Indies. Then Oxnard, at least more Filipinos there than Juneau. Then the Philippines, where Baker more than once goes to Niagara Falls. Her first souvenir says that monkeys ending up in Washington, D.C., happy to be among Filipino nannies, have no tails. Men like Baker, happy for coolies, strolling foreign babies on Embassy Row to be fanning them with palm fronds, and hospital and live-in nurses tending carefully, while they fiddled with decanters and bar spoons, with the same dedication they'd give to Baker, enjoying gazing at Asian women, their lolos and lolas. Mother, you haven't even met exquisite figures poured into scabbard-like split dresses, your baby brother yet who's just been born back home, of pastel silk that so elegantly suit, for whom you'll eventually bend and clean and scrape enough their type. Of all Asian drink mixers, he declares, to get him here and your mother and your father, the best to be the Filipinos, and somewhat, there is a selflessness you possess in early morning and unexpectedly the Japanese. There is some oriental in the night that moves through you like the fragrance of confusion. And by the end of it all, Baker is a changed man. Sempaguitas in Toloto, where your uncle said, look, you'd be better off, ruined liver in America. Okay, and I'm gonna read a few more of these quotations. I have like about 30 of them, but I'll just read just a few. The cunning woman's twist. Re-encountered when visiting an ex-banker's holiday bungalow in Borneo. Make this cocktail, one that is such an important part of men's drinking life in the colonies, when you need to momentarily forget the face of your wife back home. 3 baskets of wicker hampers, 5 desiccated orange flowers, 1 pony of oriental magic, a dash of violent nature, lots of crushed ice. Serve in a champagne glass, shattered and glued back together by a soft-footed Malay boy. The other woman, or for the duration of their knowing each other, she denied herself her sexual combustion. She always wanted stability and also needed control. She withheld from the government and ended up paying for it in the end. That weird glitch in the system of things, of order descending into chaos. Always that question hanging in the air, what if, why didn't, would they, and now that it happened, it's as if her suspicions had been congealed into memories. Maybe things take longer to manifest for women whose only inheritance is dust. Maybe timing doesn't matter. Maybe time is all that keeps track of her living. 10 years of confusion, 5 of her own footsteps, a conversation about watching Bollywood films, too many unwanted ejaculations, 1 spitting clitoris, leaders of desire crowning. Do everything together at once so that the sense of closeness warps and mirrors intense proximity to being. Not the wanting itself, but the doing, the movements, gestures. Cut around these samenesses, incise them like conjoined twins. Then cry out of stupidity when you see the connections after separation. Let the silence take over you, take over so that your mind wanders to what never happened. Rinse the image out with your tongue. Dirty topography. Letting go of history is a problem. I am learning to metabolize the tautology of rumination. Certain cleft lips are sharp-edged. Please re-adjudicate the terms for me again. Who's this person that wants this dress? I am well appointed. I am very good at decor. Wet emoji, champagne popping emoji, dying rose emoji, kiss emoji. Redeploy crudeness, it is a crocodile. Have a particular attitude towards tourism. The feeling is like being deprived of a feeling. Physicalize the impediment, take her outside, admonish her, seduce her to survive. Okay, I'll read maybe 2 more of these and then take a pause. Deep distress and pleasure at the same time. From within the archaea, steely-eyed, joint knocks, down root and heady, I come slanted and amorous. A pernicious slint in the eye, a drunken peanut half in the ashtray, a bucket of sand, the other half the key. Imagine a little bungalow the color of the ocean. There are chickens clucking and a gray pit bull named Batman chained to a tree. Picture old shirtless men drinking in the middle of the day. They sit on plastic chairs, their skin tan and taut. Little street dogs you befriend drink water from a plastic kiddie pool the same color as the house. The birds of paradise here are tall and strong. They bloom large flowers for you. You are not really from here, but you listen to the ocean and watch over your grandfather's fresh grave. Soon they will build a little house around him for family members to come and visit. I was living in a supermarket aisle. It was the aisle with the school supplies, technicolored like supermarket sweep, but I was living like a squatter, couldn't touch the merchandise. I had a litter of kittens I couldn't care for. They kept squirming against me like an army of slinkies. One of them said to me before escaping, "The hardest part about being a poet is keeping yourself entertained." Physical labor, creative labor, domestic labor, emotional labor, skilled labor, semi-skilled labor, unskilled labor. Get rid of all the distractions in your life. You have an unrequited love with your work. Force a similarity on a visceral level. Try to understand your subject position and remember the function of language. Language won't pay for your groceries. Endearment resists you. The process of uncovering is the statement, if there is one at all. When do you reclaim the uncovering for yourself? What does the procedure mean for you? Back to the body, back to the brain, strain desire through a sieve. Mispronunciation, misattribution, misunderstanding, miscommunication. We remember what we want because we don't have it. People try to love you, but they will love you in ways that are oppressive. The moon has a flavor and a scent. Our trauma of the present is not that we suffer, but we enjoy. You ate almost all the oysters that night. To only indict is not changing history. What have I to show apart from a full-fledged ponytail? Nobody has ever looked at me the way you look at me. Your baby'd be so damn cute. Nobody gave you to me. Nobody said that's the one for you. That's from Toni Morrison. You don't remember the conversation, but you thought I meant something else. My shoulders, sobbing in fact. You said no, nobody. You might bear the brunt of someone else's bad karma, wearing identity like a perfume. Who does this body even belong to? You mangle the Tagalog words more than the French words. You almost killed yourself over tres leches cake. A rice patty is a desert. You packed up your stuff quickly and left. You kept saying Kismet, and Kismet just kept happening. Kismet came all over my face. There's no way to say, I love you in my father's language. Having your cake and eating it too. Let everyone see you leaving and going to another place. Maybe those rebels will notice you.
I love the sounds of the city. I grew up, the first, I think 3 years of my life was right on the train station, right next to this train station. One of the biggest train stations. If you've seen the Bombay locals at Churchgate, I grew up right across the tracks from there. So this is great. The new book has some poems, set in India and back, but most of the poems are set in Washington. So this is one of them. Black Dog on the Anacostia River. Suddenly alone, I run down the hill through Japanese gardens in search of signs that will tell me I am home in this life, in this new American city, 10,000 miles away from my own choking Arabian Sea. The Anacostia River appears, a brown knot of sludge, a dragon aching, its old feathers listless in the afternoon sun. No 40-foot glittering wingspan rising up to ripe cornfields, towering sunflowers. This is how I find it this September day, a flooded marshland resting. Then a flash of black, shining, molten, fast-moving, Rottweiler circling, its jaws set square, its eyes on me, all menace. I think the heart of an animal is unseen. It could go for the jugular. But the dog flashes out of sight along chain fence. Maybe it knows I am with child, though I do not, as if it wants distance too, as if it is the heart of man that is unknown, and I am the omen of how we abandon the things we should love. I'll read one more from Washington. Nudes, 3, 4th Street Plaza, National Gallery of Art, Washington, D.C. Our child kicks off her sandals, breathing in the wild summer. Hot cobblestones beneath her smarting feet, she races into the empty plaza, toward fountain and glass, throwing off cotton dress in her underwear, water flecks her 4-year-old belly. Body merging with the pale pink marble facade, she laughs the world away. Eyes ripped with fury, the guard rages. Put on her clothes, or I'll call family services. He points east. It is there, just there. We slip the dress back on our glistening child, a fawn confused by this water hole, curious that these teeth of glass are skylights lighting a concourse beneath her feet. She walks on the roof of civilization. Back to Shaheen.
Okay, how many rounds are we on now?
This is
Number 3, okay. Okay, maybe I will read just a couple more recipes and then I'll read part of this essay for the final round. Okay, this will be really short because I only have 2 more that I'd like to read from this series. Skin swells under the pluck and tear of an old English word. Expanding and everlasting ulcer. To beat a word to its death. A wound word with a heartbeat. I injure my body wound shell with a word like a bleeding heart until the heart stops and shimmers. There is no beginning or end, only stultification. The smooth backside of a young sow is a Venus shell, is a curve of the hand around the buttocks. I build up the courage to luster, then forget the word as quickly as it appears. Cowrie shell. To be silk and milk white and dotty would be endless wrapping, plaster, like covering a smooth wound, holding something in just to contain it, wound womb, endless wrapping into the next day and the next. I live in the future, where Du Bois is wounding and Marx is two-stepping to dialectical pitfalls. Coveting too much is coveting too little. Set the moon as a slit in the door. Amulet or badge, vulva or eye. Fortune teller palm reads dorsal, red as pomegranate. Fins, bone, and choked, clotted kinship. The foreground of your life eclipses melancholia, utters glossolalia. Why would you go buy such ugly lamps? Okay, and I do actually want to read one more if I can find it. Hold on. This one double-sided pages do not work. Okay. On a planet. Oh yeah. Okay, I found it. What time is it? 5? 6? On a planet besides Earth, ingenuity takes off, vertically hovering, landing. All languish. Oh, I should say there's a character in this series of poems named Pudding, and she appears here. Pudding arrives, dusty, materialized. How will she fly? She's clever in combining. Pudding takes your swollen mouth to her parted lips. She spits. You can always tell if a man is good by the way he makes a daiquiri. I've only drank a daiquiri made by the hands of a white man. He invents a drink, gives it indigeneity, and tells us there are no Taino left. In the same breath says, look, they exist right here between sips of sugar and bitter. I like mine dry and parched as the red dust sand. Pudding, hold me close. I've been in bed for 2 days. I don't see anybody. Push me to the limit. Bend my knees, make me risky. Help me land somewhere on your dust planet. I don't know how home can be a place anyone goes. Messianic, dossier, bottomless, intricate, fungible. To consume me, you must be a power bottom feeder with money cowries. On this planet, we hold porcelain in our purse. Thanks.
I want to hear that line again. I don't know home is a place anyone goes. That's a great line. So it was interesting growing up because my mother was not very religious, her family, and then my father's side of the family was extremely religious in our faith, the Zoroastrian faith. And my father passed away recently, and so I thought he would be, he would rest in the place that I'm going to read now. But in fact, he wasn't, and I feel like I need to write a follow-up poem to this one. Maybe you all can come next time and I'll have it. Usually takes me about 5 years to write a poem, so you might be waiting a while. The Towers of Silence. High on the hill, beneath a fern sky of speckled spores, there is a place I long to describe in a language I do not know. The passing of each beloved one into the rocks and ivory heart of the pit in that solitary place is not a passage we will accept for ourselves, Mother, you and I. Nor did your father, who chose that box of fire, only fire. But the thought that we would all rest together in the sepia shadow of a pit drilled into the center of the core, that is not an empty wish, for after all, where will our children go to find us? Will they have to slice through the shifting sky like vultures searching for me and you and your father, ashes choking the sea? How we thought your father's singed remains would be reduced to one biscuit box, but saw instead a suitcase of black static residue and small pieces of bone, and how you coughed. Wreaths of minute grey dust rose through the chimneys of Chandanwadi into the soundless glare of that June day. It is good, Mother, to have a resting place for family, a spot to mourn the passing of the centuries and that which we are, to remember. But there are places that I long to describe in a language I do not know, and the towers, by not being in them, that is our sacrifice. If you were an outsider, not one of us, you would be interested to know what happens when we die. Most of my people, if we have been blessed by our exclusive priests in our special temples, in a language, Avasta, which is dead, if we haven't made the mistake of marrying a man who is one of you, will be carried up the hill in Mumbai on a cherished path up 2 stairs or 3, through a door and onto a cement bed at the edge of a precipice. The birds do their job, eating us, if there are enough of them, and our antibiotics do not make them sick, and our bones are swept into the pit. The men who provide this service are poor, lower caste, and dedicated. They are born to this profession: body carriers, body sweepers, maintenance engineers of the towers of silence. Must there be other words that can describe this place better than the ones I already know? Silent spectacles of words that form like clouds and beat thunderous drums with brocade batons. Shadows in a garden of ochre thread, vitiligo branches which echo the brown whispers of a festering peahen, hay fields, grass grown yellow from the start. The English description of this hill is so still, so deathly quiet. Some other language would make eloquent this hill that is soaked with human dead, more distant than Hindi, Urdu, Gujarati, Marathi. These are too close and yet impassive to my touch. This is no English green where graveyards rise like fresh, dew-kissed soldiers in the valley of life. No Tintern Abbey, roof collapsed. Not even a river here, blue and sweet. This is one landscape too burnt for English words. There is no poetry in the English sounds, no richness in their beats. Why, look at this that escapes onto the page. There is a place, high on a hill, surrounded by a malignancy of skyscrapers. No rhythm there, so there must be some other tongue to say. This is a place I long to describe in a language I do not know.
Okay, I'm starting to miss the jazz band now. I really wish they were here. I wore my Treme shirt in honor of New Orleans today, thinking about the city today a lot. And I just realized I have a section of this series of letters that I want to read It's a little bit out of context, but hopefully you can bear with me, and I'll just read this part. Hold on, let me just make sure I have my pages. Don't recommend double-sided pages. Okay, 72, 73. Okay. Dear Dawood, a friend shared a link with me to art dealer Martina Baton's obituary. I had never heard of her before, but I was immediately haunted by the tragedy that marked Martina's life. It's that same kind of haunted feeling I get when I think of Anna Mendieta, whose art Martina dealt, Ritika Vazirani, and Teresa Cha. I think of these women now as the great women artists whose stories haunt me, and whose stories I wish so much did not end tragically as to haunt me. And I'm sorry, I should do like a content warning for this part. It's a bit about violence and domestic and otherwise. Martina spent the majority of her life investigating the cold case rape and murder of her younger brother, Jeffrey. She suffered from insomnia since the night she found out, and over the years amassed a collection of art that depicted graphic scenes of gang violence by New Orleans outsider artist Roy Ferdinand. There is a film about her. In one scene, she is in her apartment kitchen preparing food for her 2 French bulldogs. She patiently walks the older disabled dog outside with the help of a towel to hold up his hind legs. She travels down to New Orleans and meets Roy's sisters, Michelle and Faye, who are at first wary of a white passing woman possessing personal belongings of their brother, who died in 2004, like his boots with dirty socks still inside them. But they invite Martina into their home, offering food and sharing stories of Roy's life, connecting his drug abuse to their present but absent father. Martina says she too had a father like that. She goes on, "He came to this country from the Philippines. I just thought he was different because he was a foreigner. He wasn't black, he wasn't white. He was brown-skinned, but nobody else in the neighborhood had a father who had brown skin. It took me until I was an adult how disturbed and how depressed he was as he grew up, as he grew older, and angry." I've watched this scene maybe half a dozen times now, watching the tension between these Black and Asian women for a moment dissipate as they commiserate on their absent fathers gives me a feeling I cannot describe. I think of my own absent father, also brown-skinned, also disturbed and depressed and angry, and how much I blamed him for this anger, but how little I understood why or where the anger originated. More curiously, I think about myself now carrying that same anger, or maybe it has materialized differently in me. Maybe it's more like Martina's obsession with death and art. Every night she didn't sleep, she'd spent the time building a sculpture out of Legos. She had structured her life around art and trauma and projected her inconsolable grief onto the work of an artist whose life was also marked by violence. She had found something of a collaborator in Roy. Their 2 worlds colliding into each other and collapsing against the other. This was her way of finding some kind of peace. The film ends with Martina in the emergency room after suffering a stroke while walking her dog. Michelle and Faye travel to New York and stand by Martina's hospital bed as she struggles to recite the name of every month. Up until this moment, Martina had no trace of a foreign accent, but the way she says January and February is the same way my mother pronounces them, January, February. Each time she says these words, the accent seems to get more pronounced. It's as if Martina is invoking her father's voice. And yeah, sorry, that's like kind of out of context, but that's me describing in a letter to somebody about this documentary about this art dealer named Martina Baton, who died this past year. And the documentary about her life is called Missing People, I think, and it came out in 2015. Thank you.
Is that it? Is this the last round? Yeah, okay. That was very interesting. Thank you. Mother's Day. I have traveled 10,000 miles with you from a small apartment at the edge of the water in a city piled high into the sky. Stacks of cement boxes with bathrooms and bedrooms, furniture, people, parrots, dogs, washing machines, and the rare laburnum tree with bunches of gold flowers that breaks the steady state of squalor that marks these still beautiful Bombay streets, to rural Virginia, where in the spring lace white pear trees make the world seem perfect, no underlying hint of violence or suffering to mark what is coming for each of us. When you think of me, irritable, homesick, carrying my burdens badly, burying my laughter deep, don't forget that I see a red cardinal shooting across a brown garden, a piece of blue sky, an orange sunset over a wide river. When I think of you, lonely, too attentive to daytime TV that keeps you connected to the outside world, don't forget that I see the laughter of generations in your heart, in languages so old all human secrets are safe with them, turning yellow and stale with underuse. There are many things that make a life. One of them is love, the acceptance I have of you. But what of laughter, Mother? Will it not help when it is the end, and there is nothing to mask what is coming for us? What will abide if my children do not know our languages and cannot laugh with us at our old family jokes? But then I look around the room and see my children laugh a lot anyway. Like wildflowers, they find a crack in the concrete to burst out and reveal that the time has come to forgive myself for what we have lost and learn to live again in a new country with pear trees. Thank you.
Thank you, Leeya. Thank you, Shaheen. Now, don't all get up and you got to listen to the credits now, see? Where do I start? We didn't need any music. You've been to those parties where all of a sudden the music cuts off and people start singing, "We don't need no music." So that's what we did. It went well. Thank you all. Thank you both. Can we have another round of applause? Okay. Now, some of you have come in, you've seen the current exhibit. It is by George H. Smith Shamari. He is actually in the audience. So if you have any questions, you can talk to him about spiritual talismans. So please do that. You may have noticed there is a shine box there. Has a little history to it. Something that Sammy Miranda, who couldn't be here right now, he's not feeling a little too well. So, but that shine box is for what we ask for, and if you can do it, any size donation. It is for, this is a nonprofit organization, so the donations, your donations go to pay our poets, and when they're here, they're our musicians as well. So if you're able, and there's PayPal, I think the Cash App doesn't seem to work sometimes, but there's a PayPal information there if you'd like to transact in that way. There are also, in the back, there are printed t-shirts and also some books. Oh, and there's a really fresh book that's out right now, and it's sitting right over there, and the poet is right there. So, wow, you might even get a signature. I mean, the book is free probably. The signature will cost you some money, okay? We don't have yet a price list for the artwork, but I'm sure, I have a feeling that Mr. Smith Shamari can let you know about that, I think. And but anyway, just talk to him about it. This is the American Poetry. Oh yeah, there's water here, plenty of water, and it's cold by now. This is the American Poetry Museum. So we have, you'll be able to see some of our past performances, and even this one in time, on the American Poetry Museum site on Facebook, and some of the things are also on, some of the readings are also on YouTube. I think that's the end of the credits. I'm Brandon D. Johnson, and this is the American Poetry Museum. Thank you. I know.